been on cloud nine. About a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate to go to a coaching clinic, and actually it was a basketball coaching clinic that they invited Tony Dungy to speak at. And Tony Dungy's point to me, which over 7 years away from the college game, was as a coach in college, you get to touch people's lives. And in the pros, you don't get it as much. And we were talking about guys who he had coached that had gone on to be college coaches, and how now they're talking about the impact that they had on their coach had on them, and then they're saying it's gone down the line from Tony Dungy to the third generation. And so for me, I always thought about what my love for coaching in college was, and then I was fortunate enough that when I heard about this job possibility being open, the two people in my life who Coach Sindek is very close to, I'm very close to, is Jeff Van Gundy and Nate McMillan. So for me, the right situation was the perfect storm. You know, I was starting to think in that way for my life, for my family, to get a chance to come and be with someone like Coach Sindek, who had the same values that I have. So for me, this is a great chance to be with him. I got to commend Coach Taylor down there, you know, from someone coming from the NBA and watching how many different things that Coach Taylor has done in this short time for me. I mean, he's involved in everything that this program does on and off the court. So I thank him for getting me here. Eric and I have never worked together, but we have the 7 separations that you hear about, the 7 separations from Kevin Bacon. We have, Tom Thibodeau was one of your dad's first coaches, or yeah, I know he coached with him. And I worked with Tom in Houston, and Tom is a good friend of both of ours, and has said that, you know, you'll be lucky to be around Eric. He's been a head coach, has coached there twice in the NBA, so I'm really fortunate.
Coach D?
I too thank everybody for the kind words, and it's just natural to invite these guys in and lock arms with them and go to war with them, so to speak. I mean, I can't help but to grin from ear to ear when I think about the possibilities of what this staff can do for not just our current team, but all of the Sun Devil Nation that's out there. It's hard to not get excited and express joy to be able to September 9th get on the road and lead the charge and talk about these 3 guys that I have a chance to sit at the table with on a day-to-day basis and learn from. You know, I'm most excited about those possibilities for our current team and for the guys that we have a chance to attract, the life lessons that we get to teach from an academic standpoint, the life lessons that we get to teach from a day-to-day standpoint, and most importantly, most significantly for these young guys, what they're most attracted to is the NBA. So who but to tell them about that experience but a former head coach and a long-time NBA assistant. So, and then to top it off, I mean, the leader of all leaders is Coach Sindek. To sit by him and watch him go through this process has been amazing. They say the true test of adversity is, or the true test of a leader is to watch them during adversity. Coach didn't flinch. He didn't think twice about what he was doing. He packed his stuff up, he put his chin strap on, and he moved forward. And that is the charge for our program, is to move forward at this point. And again, I can't express how excited I am about the possibilities that are going to come from the Weather Up Center now with these new guys on our staff. So I'm excited and elated. Most importantly, I'm anxious. I'm anxious to roll up my sleeves and do what we just did this weekend, which is spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week talking basketball, so that when we're on the floor with our guys, there's no chinks, there's no weak links. Everybody knows what everybody's doing, so that when it comes to turn the lights on in Wells Fargo, it'll be time to go. That's what I'm most excited about, and I want to thank these guys for the opportunity to work alongside of them, and obviously continuing to be under Coach Sindek's tutelage has been like no other experience I've ever had. I couldn't write a book about some of the things that I've been able to learn on a day-to-day basis just being around them today. Some of the things that we go through on a day-to-day basis, it's a heck of an opportunity. So having said all of that, we're ready. Let's go get it.
We'll take any questions that you have. Thank you. Herb, how much was the timing of the departures, how much did that play into looking for NBA candidates? You know, were there a lot more possibilities there, a lot more quality candidates that way?
You know, to be honest with you, Bob, the timing was irrelevant. We would have taken the exact same road had it happened 6 weeks ago, or if it would have happened right after the season. So that really wasn't a variable in our decision making. And even outside of the professional ranks, we had many tremendous opportunities to look at coaches from high school and college as well. But just, you know, in talking to Steve, you know, for the reasons we already gave, it just seemed to make great sense, you know, to try to swing for the fences and do something a little bit different.
This question's for Eric or Larry. Do you feel that the biggest challenge to transition from NBA to college is really the recruiting aspect of it all?
Yes. I think that recruiting is the heartbeat of any program in college. So, yes, I think that we are, you know, I'm fortunate I've had some experience with it. So I know, you know, like the highs and lows of recruiting. And, but yes, I think the challenge is definitely the recruiting side.
Eric, I know you've had opportunities to be an assistant at the NBA level as well. Why take a college assistant's job when you could have had an NBA assistant's job? Which, by the way, some people would tell you is one of the great jobs in the world. No pressure.
I mean, I've done the NBA assistant route, and you know, this was just something that at the right time, you know, Coach and I talked, and working for a great X&O coach, because Steve has a background, so there's a natural connection with the athletic director, and then the brand of Arizona State, you know, and you know, for me, I want to learn. You know, you know, I understand that there's, you know, this is two different worlds, so to speak, in some ways, and in many ways, it's a very similar world. And even, you know, when we've talked about the recruiting, there's a lot of stuff that is overwhelming to me right now, but there's also a lot of, as I'm looking through the book that Coach Taylor put together, there's a lot of names, surprisingly to myself even, that I know a lot of these people through the course of 20-some years in coaching. And you know, but it's, to me, I've done the NBA assistant thing, and this is a new challenge, and one that I'm happy and feel fortunate to be a part of, quite honestly.
Eric and Larry, I'd be interested to know, I know just being hired, you probably haven't had a great opportunity to thoroughly evaluate the players you'll be coaching, but I'm curious to know what you do know about the young men you'll be working with this year.
I mean, we had workouts, you know, today, and you know, Coach is so detail-oriented, and I was overly impressed with the verbal communication on exactly what they were doing in the drills. I think if all the coaches stepped off to the side of the floor, you know, to some degree, the players with some experience showed great leadership, and I mean, it's kind of like a well-oiled machine as far as the methodicalness of how they prepare and went through the drills, and I was you know, surprised at how well the shooting was as a group. I thought there was a lot of really good shooters today, and for myself it was just one day, but great work ethic, high intensity, they're following their leader in Coach, and again, a lot of great shooting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We talked about that actually on the way over here. It was after the workout was, there wasn't a bad shooter in the group. I mean, Musselman is a 7-footer who shoots threes. So I mean, for us, it was watching him. I was going, wow, that's pretty impressive. That, you know, we were charting how many threes he made out of like 50, and it was over 50%. So for that, for me, it was surprising how well we shot the ball.
Coaches, what kind of impact are you going to have right off the bat? What are your initial
goals coming into this program?
I would say to just get better every day. You know, I think that take it one day at a time, you know, and get better every day and learn from these guys. And for me, it's, if we can work together and we're on the same page, then the guys will be on the same page and we will get better every day.
When you guys were talking basketball over the weekend, is this a signal at all that there may be a change in your system, or are you going to open it up more, or will you consider that with these guys and the players you have? Is there anything like that on the horizon?
Sure. You know, at the end of every season, Bob, it's important that we reevaluate all aspects of our program. So that's been an ongoing process since the last day of the season back in the spring. And throughout the summer, we've talked about the fact, especially with Jahi added to our lineup, that we're going to have the ability to play as fast as any team in our conference. I think that fits our team. With some of the personnel differences a year ago, that wasn't realistic for us. So we've already started down that path and believe that's a really good way for our team to go. I know in particular Coach Musselman's teams have always been renowned for their scoring. And, you know, I think, you know, the one thing we talked about yesterday was roles. You know, anytime you have a new team, you know, whether it's a coaching staff, an administrative staff, you know, our actual basketball team, when you come together, you have to define roles. And we took that as far as this yesterday. I said, before we get into any particulars, I think the best role for each of us to play is to help each other learn. So already in 2 days, I've learned a great deal from Coach Greer and Coach Musselman, and I've been learning for 6 years from Coach Taylor. So the first step for us is to understand like the paramount role that we each have to fill, especially myself, is to learn from each other. But I think, you know, circling back specifically to your question, with our personnel changes, the train was moving that direction, and then with their expertise, I think we can, you know, make some, you know, really polish that process.
Eric, is that any comfort level, you being a West Coast guy pretty much all your life, to make that transition from the NBA to college, just staying in the same region? Because you talked about knowing recruiting context almost like by default, being in this region for so long through the NBA.
I mean, I think that there is, you know, as you talk about recruiting, and I mean, the Bay Area, most of those AAU guys I do know, LA somewhat. But again, I mean, I have to learn. I got a lot to learn in that area. I still got to pass the test.
You know what? I'm also just going to give the guys we're recruiting a little bit of credit for being smart enough to recognize who these guys are and just want to work with them. You know, and let's face it. You know, with recruiting, if you have a great work ethic and you could build relationships, which obviously they've made a career of doing, you know, you can recruit effectively. When you have a great product to sell like we do with Arizona State, we can recruit effectively. And so I think it would be a mistake to over-analyze, you know, the amount of years experienced actually recruiting. You know, sometimes the good news is people don't know you, because when they know you, sometimes they don't like you. So, you know, we start with all of our bridges intact.
Anything else? Steve, I have a question for you as an alumni of Sun Devil for Life. You've got to be pretty pleased with the way the whole athletic department shaping up with coaches from football and now a solid group in basketball. What's next, or what's your vision to continue this in all of the athletics as it moves forward?
Well, we sat down in the spring with all the coaches and talked about expectations or metrics, you know, be it in performance, be it in academics, be it in compliance, be it in the business side of it. And so we want to continue to refine that. We obviously had great success in softball, for instance, for years. We're going to be back playing for keeps this year in baseball, and we're excited about what the team's doing there. Our track and field folks are good. Golf's moving back, so we don't look at it as just football and basketball alone carrying the entire department. We want to compete for the Directors' Cup, be good across the department. It'll be challenging for Pac-12 championships in every one of the sports that we compete in every year, and be as financially solvent as we can possibly be. And so to do that, all the teams are going to have to hit on all their cylinders, and we're making good progress that direction.
Anything else?
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.